Good evening, everyone. Just like they did to Nnamdi Kanu, the federal government have started against Dele Farotimi. This is a breaking news that the Nigerian police filed fresh charges against Dele Farotimi at the Federal High Court to prevent him bail. This is insane. Now, I took time to read the charges leveled against him. Do you know what they are charging this man? It's just failed charges, just like what he did to Nnamdi Kanu. Now, they are telling him that so that you went to Mike on broadcast, Sowore Bandoye's Mike on broadcast, and when you get there, you say something that you took personal against Babaloda. So date on your YouTube channel, you said this. So date on the come on. Now, let me tell you, the charges is not because they want to fight charges against the man. The charges they are just fighting against this man is because they want to stop him from speaking the truth. They just want to stop him. There is nothing else, absolutely nothing. They just want to stop him. Now, let's go through this article. This is so laughable. Shara Reporters published in this way says the Nigerian police have filed fresh charges before human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi before the Federal High Court in Ekiti State over allegations of cybercrime. The State Police Command made the filing on Friday in a plot to frustrate the human rights lawyer's bail application and keep him in remand. Farotimi, known for his advocacy for justice and good governance, had appeared before the court on Wednesday following charges brought against him by H. Babalola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, under the Cybercrime Prohibition, Prevention, etc. Act of 2015. The police filed 12 fresh count charges against Farotimi, according to court documents seen by Shara Reporters. Some of the counts read that you, Dele Farotimi, mail on 28 August 2024, knowingly and intentionally transmitted communication in an online interview on mic on broadcast by Sowore Bandoye on your YouTube channel. They put the YouTube link. In respect of a book authored and published by you titled Nigeria and its Criminal Justice System, wherein you stated in the interview that Are Babalola corrupted the judiciary, which you know to be false information for the purpose of causing breakdown of law and order, hereby committed an offense contrary to and punishable under Section 24(1)(b) of Cybercrime Prohibition Act, etc. Act of 2015. Count number 2, the count just continued up to 12 count charges. If you speak the truth, they will kill you. If you did not speak the truth, they will kill you. So I think we all should be ready to face sentencing, because if that is what it takes to sentence people now, meaning they are going to sentence all of us, because we are not going to keep quiet. If advocating for justice, saying the truth, saying things as it is, like what Dele Farotimi has been doing, if that is the crime, we all are going to prison. But you know what? We are not afraid, because prison is a campaign. Look at the arrest of Dele Farotimi. Many people don't even know that he wrote a book before or he exposed something like this before. But look at, he's becoming a world-class author. Trust Nigerians at your own peril. Anyway, it is what it is. Nigeria is not going to work in this way. It won't work. So the earlier we realize that this is a failed nation, the better for us.
Joining me on this edition of the Macon podcast from Lagos to discuss some of these issues around Nigeria's judiciary is Mr. Dele Farotimi, a seasoned lawyer and an outspoken critic of the Nigerian justice system, who has expressed his concerns extensively in his thought-provoking book, Nigeria and its Criminal Justice System. Dele Farotimi joins us virtually from Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Farotimi, for joining us today.
Good evening, Michelle. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. I was reading your book with some kind of trepidation, and I was wondering, it was as if I was reading it in a public space. So I was looking around over my shoulder whether or not anybody could hear me or see what I'm reading, because the fear we have about the Nigerian judiciary, it does look like you're so frustrated, you're so angry. From the very first, in your preface to your introduction, you establish your disgust at some of what you have described as a rot in the Nigerian judiciary. Let me start by asking you, the change that we see in leadership between Justice Kayode Ariwoola and Justice Kekere Ekun, how fundamental do you think this change is?
When you ask with the pedigree of Justice Kekere Ekun, I had to laugh because it's as if the change of name would suggest a change of, some change of guard, as if some paradigm has shifted simply because we moved from an Ariwoola to a Kekere Ekun. The fact of the matter is that she's a member of the Nigerian judiciary. She's at the apex right now. She was part and parcel of that Supreme Court each and every time that it had failed the Nigerian people in the last decade plus. She was part and parcel of that Supreme Court when it delivered his Lawan judgment, when it delivered his Akpabios judgment, when it delivered almost all of the disgusting judgments that have issued forth from the Supreme Court. You said you were reading my book with trepidation, and I'm like, okay, Flora Azinge, a justice, I believe, of the Court of Appeal, sitting at the tribunal in Kanu, Azinge came out publicly to speak of how she was being induced. Attempts were being made to induce herself and members of her panel. That wasn't Dele Farotimi that said that. That is a veritable member of the judiciary that said that. Bokachua came to the public space to tell all of us within the unholy chambers of the Senate exactly how judicial pronouncements are procured in the bedroom. He was the first to inform us of how the judiciary has been Bokachualized. Supreme Court justices, numbering 14, came out to say that the Supreme Court, the head of the Supreme Court at the time, Tanko Mohammed, the plane driver, was corrupt. They were claiming that 80 billion had been misappropriated in the Supreme Court. These were justices of the Supreme Court that were signing petition, not Dele Farotimi now. So it wasn't something that Dele Farotimi said that led them to do that. When the United States Department of State came out with its 2021 report and said that our judiciary is a cesspit of corruption, it wasn't Dele Farotimi that said that. He didn't say so. So you have a situation where our judiciary did not become the way it is because Dele said anything. Incidentally, I believe about 2 years ago, when Justice Ariwoola was appointed acting CJ, this question you have asked of me tonight was probably a mirror image of the same question Dr. Ruben Abati asked of me about Ariwoola and what effect he might have, what changes we might expect from the judiciary. I told him at the time that I didn't expect anything to change. Just as I'm telling you as well, right here and now, that I expect nothing to change. The Nigerian judiciary is the way it is because that is the way the system needs it to be for the system to function.
Mr. Farotimi, there are those who know Justice Kekere Ekun and who will refer to Justice Kekere Ekun in this manner. They say Justice Kekere Ekun is incorruptible and comes with the highest level of integrity. Would you be fair to have referred to Justice Kekere Ekun in the manner in which you have referred to her? Our person has been. No, you've made reference.
Listen, my brother. Listen, my brother. Persons make up systems, but essentially, this is not about persons. I don't have a personal experience of Justice Kekere Ekun, so I cannot speak to a person, but I can speak to the institution that she is heading. And I am saying that the institution she's heading is institutionally incapable of delivering justice because the system has not been set up to deliver justice. I don't know who she is as a person, but I know what she represents. And I am saying that the institution she represents, look, don't listen to me, listen to Ebun Shofunde SAN. Mr. Shofunde was very specific when he said very clearly that the judicial reputation is at an all-time low. That is the head of the body of senior advocates of Nigeria. Not me. I'm even a retired lawyer. I'm not a seasoned lawyer. Don't worry. It actually makes more sense for everybody to believe that I should not be taken seriously since I kukuma come across as a madman. So don't worry about me. Let's listen to the likes of Ebun Shofunde. Let's listen to, I forget this justice name, the one that retired from Niger State. In the chambers at his own valedictory service, he was busy indicting the judiciary and excoriating it in the strongest possible term, not something I said. So when I say it, maybe the irreverent manner that I might adopt in delivering the truth without bothering to sugarcoat it, might come across as shocking, but I am not saying anything that we all are not aware of. Our judiciary is a reflection of the society that we have managed to build, debased, debauched, completely acculturated to abnormalities. It does not deliver any justice. We are only fooling ourselves. How do you talk about justice in a situation where you spend over 5 years in court, at the High Court, over 5 years before you are even heard? I have cases involving me as a person, personal cases where I had grievances against state agencies and I sued, and I've been in court for like 4 years in one case. My matter has not been heard in 1 day. We've never been called to open our case. And yet, if that is not corrupt, what is more corrupt? Justice delayed is justice denied. Ariwola is still sitting there at his valedictory saying bye-bye, and he's talking about delaying justice. Who causes it?
Yeah, and this is the manner in which I summarized your book. It's an easy read. I probably read half of it on the plane from Lagos to Abuja, and just about 100 pages or so. You said in that book, and this is how I summarize it. You said that there is a systemic corruption, inefficiency, lack of public trust in law enforcement and judicial processes in Nigeria, and you gave us some very far-reaching and personal experience as a practicing lawyer. In fact, what bothered me is the names that you dropped and the names you mentioned, which I know can put you into legal trouble, and which I know that you're a man of, you're a troublemaker yourself.
Sheon, let me explain something to you.
Yeah.
In law, the truth is an absolute defense against libel. Whether that libel is civil or criminal libel, the truth is an absolute defense. I challenge any one of them to dare to sue me, take me to that same court. The key reason why I felt myself compelled to write this book is the fact that I sought legal redress for the libel against me by one of the principal characters, and he used his clout in the judiciary to deny me the capacity to even question him.
These are heavy. These are weighty allegations. You have
they are
accused
not allegations,
a
they are
former
facts.
Solicitor General of Lagos State, Lawal Pedro, SAN. You have accused Baba Afe Babalola, SAN. You have accused a very prominent person in the judiciary also of compromise. In fact, you even mentioned the retired CGN Ariwola in some of your analysis in your book. These are weighty and heavy allegations against these personalities, don't you think?
Let me put it this way. I have been very, very deliberate about avoiding dealing with names and persons, because my fight in the Nigerian space is not against persons. It's about the decadent institution and the state itself. So whenever I have had to mention persons by name, it's been because it is completely unavoidable, and the truth and facts have to be established without looking at anybody's eyes. Because all of us, we're just creatures in time. We will go eventually. Incidentally, my confidant and friend, who was chairman at the launch of the book, has passed on. Within less than 2 months of the book being launched. That shows you the transient nature. Yes, it shows you the transient nature of the life that we live. So if I say because I'm afraid of what a human being will do to me, or I'm afraid of how my professional colleagues or people might look at me when I have spoken the truth, what of when I'm dead? What happens then? So whilst I'm here, alive and well, and able to speak the truth that I've experienced and has been given to me to speak, it is not for me to look at the eyes of Uche, me, Woju Uche, whoever know like him. They are the legal gurus now. They know the road to court. I have every confidence in the capacity of the truth, both as a shield and as a sword. Every confidence. And having said that, I say this knowing that I have told the truth. The facts are inside the court's own records, notoriously. So if people are not happy with what I have said, that's their problem. But it's not about their person, it's about the situation, the system that has allowed such levels of abuse. It is the system, not the persons. Persons will live and they will die. I will go one day just as each and every one of the persons I mentioned. But the system that allowed that kind of evil has to change. if this society is going to be one in which our children are going to be able to live with some level and measure of decency, we cannot have a system that regulates impunity and then that licenses men to act as though they are gods and citizens as serfs that they can simply trample upon their head and then use the courts to legitimize the evil. No.
So you are saying what you have inferred in this book to me looks like a frustration of a lawyer who has seen the worst case scenario of what could have happened in any justice system, even in hell. And you have said, look, anybody who goes to find justice in the Nigerian system is a sheer waste of time. Does that represent your position after all said and done?
To a very large extent, you are correct. But I need to, because there are nuances to these things as well. Number one, it would be disingenuous of me to suggest that it is the evils that I saw in the system that led me to walk away from legal practice. That would not be true. I had already decided I was leaving when I turned 50. What happened in this case happened, I think, in 2013. So it's a story that took, 2012, 2013, is a story that took almost 12 years to write. So even after it had happened, I remained in practice for, I think, another 5 years before retiring. So it wasn't because of this. But when it comes to the truthfulness of your assertion that I had become disenchanted with the capacity of the system to deliver anything of value, you are completely correct. It had become clear to me that the Nigerian judicial system is completely unfit for purpose. Look, United Nations Office for Drug and Crimes was very clear in his indictment of the Nigerian judicial system. He says it is corrupt, horribly corrupt. That is not me. It is now my own experience. You know, when you are talking in abstracts and you are talking about the corruption of the judiciary, you are still speaking abstractly. What I have done is to offer my own first-hand experience within the system. I have merely spoken to what I saw within the system, what I witnessed. So where the United Nations Office for Drug and Crime can speak generally and in broad terms, where Mr. Shofunde could speak about the Supreme Court having become perfunctory with his judgment. I'm quoting him. Supreme Court judgment has become perfunctory. This is not, those are not rabble rousers. You can say Dele Farotimi is not well, he's a rabble rouser. Those are not Dele Farotimi. Those are individuals and institutions to whom you can at least ascribe some measure of temperance, unlike me. So that's what it is. It became tiring and it became important to set the record straight and let Nigeria be confronted with a mirror showing it is that judiciary should see its own ugly nudity and be forced to change itself. It's a society-wide thing. But if the judiciary is lost, what is left of the society?
So you have officially and permanently left the legal practice.
Oh,
and you're
yes,
not open to return.
Never. I left legal practice in 2018 when I turned 50. I left. And I announced it to the whole world. I left my practice. I said bye-bye to it. I find my living in other ways. I try my best to find other living. But I left law practice completely. I find no satisfaction in it, not because of what is happening there. Like I said, even before I was ever called to the Nigerian bar, even when I was yet in the university, I'd already told all my friends that once I turn 50, I'll find other things to do with my life. I wasn't coming to practice to discover that the Nigerian legal system is horrible. No. I'm a member of this society. I didn't need to enter the law practice to find out that the law practice and the legal system is decadent. It is the same as every other aspect of our society. Every strata of our society is decayed, including the press. So this is not one where anybody gets to point fingers. It is a society-wide collapse. But I decided that I was leaving. Let me find other living. I'd been farming since maybe like 20-something years ago. I find other ways to earn a living and to live my life without the stress of saying my Lord and my lady to people that I know, your worship, your honor to people who are less than honorable. I'm done with all of that.
Well, I mean, but it's okay to still call you a lawyer.
At the end of the day, whether you are fixed, retired, former, at the end of the day, I'm defined by my legal training. when I was taking the decision to read law, it was based on the understanding that I'm living in a lawless society, but it was necessary to understand the law so that I will know the part where I have to bend or where I have to avoid. So I'm a lawyer for the rest of my life, but just not a practicing one. I'm retired.
And so I'm going to the nitty-gritty of what you wrote in your book, which I may not be able to pick on every character or every experience that you have. But there is one that seems to have touched you, and you became so emotional in the use of your language in this book. You describe the situation, historical factors, socio-political dynamics, and economic disparities, which you think have contributed to the dysfunction system we have within the Nigerian judiciary. You have argued that these challenges not only hinder effective law enforcement, but also undermine the protection of citizens' rights, leading to a cycle of impunity and justice. You particularly took on personalities. And a very revered legal icon, Are Afe Babalola, you accused him of corrupting the Supreme Court. You accused him of libel. And you accuse him of leveraging his influence in the judiciary to deny you justice. You made reference to a particular case. And you also dragged the likes of Mr. Pedro SAN in all of this argument. What exactly was the situation? And how can you defend what you have alleged in this book?
Like I have strived to explain, I am dealing with institutions and principalities within institutions. That I have had to deal with persons is by the way. They are collateral to my preoccupation. Now, anything I have said in relation to any one of them, I am perfectly happy to defend myself before any court of law, anywhere in the world. And the fact of the truth that I have told, they are all in the public space. They are in the public record. They are before the courts. I have not written this book to scandalize or to make money. In actual fact, every kobo derived from this book already pledged and donated to a foundation for autistic children. This is not for gain. But the truth is the truth is the truth. And it must be told without caring about names or reputations. If I have lied against persons, they are lawyers. As you said, Baba is the legal Igbo in Nigeria. They are the ones who planted the judiciary that we have today. And I know and they know what they did in the case under reference. And the facts of what they did, the malfeasance, is before the courts. They can't even, I don't even have to produce a single piece of paper. Everything is in the public space.
But it seems that person so revered as Are Afe Babalola,
yes.
It looks that you are impugning that image, that reputation built over the years. And I'm asking you to substantiate. Tell Nigerians on this platform what exactly was the case. How did he deny you justice through the system?
Sheon,
Mr. Farotimi.
I wrote a book deliberately setting out the facts. I have also been very deliberate in my presentation and speaking about the book since I wrote it, to make sure that nobody is able to say that I have written the book with the intention of scandalizing persons. When I said Are Afe Babalola denied me justice, I laid out the substance of my allegation in the book that I have written. If I begin to deal with the nuts and bolts of it on your podcast or in the press, that's why you've never seen me tweet any part of the allegation or speak about it publicly. I've put it in a book. That is deliberate. It will outlive me and them. It is not beer parlor talk. It is me putting my words in writing. It is indelible. Nobody can touch it again. Before that book was written, my major prayer was that Are Afe Babalola should live to read that book, or at least have somebody read it to him, or at least have somebody tell him about it so that he's able to rebut, and nobody is going to turn around later on and claim that, why didn't you say this when he was alive? In actual fact, that was why I sued him in his lifetime, so that there would be a record that I challenged him with the facts when he was alive. And thanks to God, the God who has given all of us life, he has preserved him as he has preserved me. Ariafe Babalola is alive and well. He is well able to challenge the facts as I have laid them out. So when I say that he denied me justice, even you who has read the book, let me just say this. How do you explain that the person who was the chairperson at my wedding was the judge, the chairperson at my wedding, who has not talked to me and has kept at distance and been very malicious towards me since 2003. She has never had a word to say to me. That was the person, my very first employer as a lawyer. That was the judge that the case was assigned to. My case against Afe Babalola was assigned to that judge.
And you think that you couldn't have gotten justice?
How could I possibly have gotten justice from a judge who hadn't spoken to me, who was chairperson at my wedding, who was the first person to ever employ me? And that
One would imagine that kind of person would be in your favor, not against you.
Oh, I didn't need anyone to be in my favor. But as I said in the book, the moment the case was assigned to her, I called the former head of chambers and told him, see, they've assigned my case to this woman. If I write a letter demanding that the case be removed, it will be construed as me being malicious. I'll leave it, since she's not the substantive judge. She's meant to be the, I can't remember what they call those things. When you file a case, first it goes to a judge before it goes to trial. She was just meant to just take the preliminary issues. But she killed the case before it even went. That's another story, and it's been told. See, justice must not only be done, it must be seen to have been done. She adjourned to rule on a preliminary objection. We wrote 2 letters to the court to find out when the ruling will be delivered, and copied our first chamber. Nobody ever responded. 9 months after her adjournment, she delivered the ruling without even informing us. We just happened to be in court for something else, and we realized that she had delivered her ruling without ever informing us. I have provided more. Look, my own is this. Before the book was written, I was pressured. I was under a lot of personal pressure that I must write this book and it must be in the public space because none of us will live forever. Now I have written this book. Those who feel aggrieved by the book should do me the favor of suing me. I have not whispered in a beer parlor. I did not talk in some back room somewhere. I have written a book. It is in the public domain. If they are aggrieved, let them go to court. Maybe everybody, they tell us in Nigeria, go to court. Okay, so me, I'm saying to them as well, go to court.
But you have not still told me on this platform, and perhaps a lot of my audiences who have not read the book, what did Are Afe Babalola do to you?
You are making this sound like some personal grievance between myself and Are Afe Babalola. I'm saying it is not personal. I'm saying that Are Afe Babalola corrupted the judiciary. And in corrupting the judiciary, it came across my practice. When I came across it, I challenged it as a lawyer and I fought it to the point where he could not enjoy the fruit of his exertion in the Supreme Court. In writing the letter that he wrote to the then Chief Justice of Lagos State, Ayomide Philip, he libeled me. He suggested that I should be derobed, that what I had done was deserving of sanction, and I should have been struck off the bar. And when I saw this, knowing what I already knew of what he did, I wrote a letter asking that he should withdraw that letter that he had written that was libelous of me. And it declined. Arrogantly so, it declined. And I sued him for libel. And when I sued for libel, the machines of corruption went into overdrive, and a case that should never have been killed at the preliminary stage was killed. Everything about the case, the judge to whom it was assigned, the manner of the handling of the case, 9 months after it was adjourned for ruling, 9 months. The procedures are clear. It shouldn't be longer than 3 months. 9 months without informing us, in spite of the fact that we had written 2 letters to request to be told when the ruling will be delivered. So, and then the ruling went as far as to say that, look, Sheung, there are some things that should not be reduced to person. This has nothing to do with persons. If Areafe Babalola was the only person who is licensed to enjoy that level of impunity, that's different. It's not about him. It's a system-wide problem. You simply can't get justice from the system. When I spoke about him and the others, they are merely as examples. He has nothing to do with persons. I don't know him as a person beyond what I have described. I think I've only ever set my eye on him once in my entire life. I described it in the book. It was at Heathrow Terminal 5. That was the only time I ever saw him in my life, and it was before this occurrence. So it's nothing personal. But if persons have perpetrated evil and they have reinforced it and built a system that is as patently evil as the one in which we are living, it becomes the duty of the conscious. If you are conscious of that evil, you must speak against it. If you don't speak against it, you are helping to normalize it. So when the United Nations is speaking about corruption in the Nigerian system, when a judge is appointing his son, his daughter-in-law, when the entire system becomes as prebendal as it has become, it becomes easy for persons to influence things within the system to the detriment of those who should be citizens. So I'm not speaking about persons. I loathe to speak about persons. But when I am compelled to speak about persons in relation to their impact on the system and as types, I have no choice. I have no choice. It is whether what I have said is the truth or not. That should be what counts. It's not about the person. I don't care about names. I don't care about whether the person is 100 years old or 10 years old. It is about what level of respect have you earned. What is the value of the life you have lived?
Do you think that there is some kind of cultic arrangement within the legal profession that drags the judiciary by the jugular, such that there are some persons within the legal profession that get justice the way they want? Because in some of your explanation, it does look like there is a class of lawyers or the class of persons within the Nigerian legal practice that gets whatever they want in the courtrooms.
The Nigerian judiciary is not different from any other aspect of our society. What you find is that, okay, look at Ariwola, for instance. A man is the Chief Justice of the Federation. He makes his son a judge of the Federal High Court. He makes his daughter-in-law a judge of the Federal Court of Federal Capital Territory. He makes his brother auditor of the Nigerian Judicial Council. Another family member became a judge of the Court of Appeal. When you have these egregious abuses of the Judicial Code of Conduct, when they have more or less turned judicial appointment into a family inheritance, when it is the girlfriends and wives of politicians that become judges and justices, what you find is a replication of what you have in the police, in the custom, and in every other aspect of our society. So it is not as if there is a special court in the judiciary or at the bar. No, not necessarily. It's the same Nigerian factor of not holding people responsible for their actions, of a system that is not designed to enforce the rule of law. It is that same system that you are seeing at work in the judiciary. It is just that its effect on the judiciary is by far more ruinous than everywhere else, because the illusion of justice has been eroded. There is no longer any illusion that there is justice. Everybody now knows that you are not going to get justice from. How do you expect to get justice from a court that is constantly doing all kinds of somersaults? So it's not about a court somewhere. If there is one, I'm unaware. But I do know that with every other Nigerian thing, when some people have conquered a space as though it were to be a territory, you then find a succession of their children, their friends, and assigns being placed in offices, and the person who has appointed you, to a very large extent in a prebendal system, gets to dictate what you do. So we've managed to evolve a judicial system that works to deliver justice to the poor and to the rich and powerful, but only judgment gets to the poor. So the judgment, the poor will end up in prison, the poor will end up with the heavy end of the stick, but the rich, they get justice delivered faster. If an emir wants to sue now, he will sue and they will deliver judgment within 1 week. That's why you ended up with the madness in Kanu. But if a poor man needs justice delivered quickly, he's still in court for the 4 years, like I have been in court for 4 years, and I'm not exactly poverty ridden, and yet nobody has heard me. So what kind of judicial system have we built? So it's not about persons, it's not about court, it's a reflection of who we are as a society and what we have done to our justice delivery system. It's nothing to do with any court, it's our society.
There was something you said which came out to me. You said Nigeria, I'm quoting you, Nigeria and its criminal justice system are one of the most violent injustices that I have ever seen coming out of that Supreme Court. Came from a panel on which this particular justice sat twice. I'm talking about Justice Ariwola. But a lot of encomium has been on him as he bows out. President Tinubu stated that he was selfless, hardworking, and dedicated. Don't you see that your opinion of the CJN or the retired CJN differs from that of the president or some section of the Nigerian public?
When hagiographers presume to write history, they dress the subject in borrowed gowns, and then sometimes they steal crowns to wear for the subject. These people who are expressing all these opinions of Justice Kayode Ariwola and talking about how selfless he is, how selfless is he when he was appointing his son a judge of the Federal High Court against the clear provision of the Judicial Code of Conduct? How selfless was he when he was appointing his brother auditor of the National Judicial Council? So I'm not going to, like I said, it's not personal. So when they are busy eulogizing him and talking about how selfless he is, let them remember that the history on paper, the facts suggest the exact opposite of what they are saying. But like I said, I have nothing personal against Ariwola as a man. I don't know him. I've never seen him in my life. I've never met him. So whatever it is that they say he is, history will judge all of us eventually. History would decide whether a selfless man would appoint his son a judge, his daughter-in-law a judge, his brother auditor, another cousin justice of the Court of Appeal, under his watch as the Chief Justice of the Federation. So me, I'm not going to join issues with his judgment by history. I've written what I know of him, and that was what I found in coming across him as a public servant. Other than that, I don't know him as a person. I have merely given my account of what I know. Those who are busy dressing him in borrowed gowns, they can enjoy themselves. History will take those gowns off him in due course.
Coincidentally, there was a matter in court with the former Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun. And it looked to me that this is yet another kind of frustration that you express in this book about the state of our justice system. How sad do you think this scenario for you based on how you express it in the book? Mike,
I had a case. I was being tried before Justice Dada, and whilst I was there, two people were equally being tried by the EFCC before Justice Dada. The lady was trying to procure a visa to the United Kingdom, and she was trying to do this using forged documents, and the second accused, our co-accused, was the one who was more or less like the travel agent who provided the forged document. Whilst I was there, whilst my own case was also going on, this pair were convicted and sentenced to prison. It was the same week that they were sentenced to prison that the Kemi Adeosun story was breaking in the Nigerian press. And I was looking at this, in this same society, where somebody who was trying to escape the madness of Nigeria in a desperation, yes, not condoning criminality, in a desperation, she procured forged documents. The system, with the agency of the EFCC, ensured their imprisonment. But Kemi Adeosun, a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, forged their own NYSC paper. What happened to her? Nothing. So for the poor, you have judgment. For the rich, you have impunity. So it's merely, again, like I said, it's not about persons. As you can see, I cannot even remember the name of the victims. They are without names. I just remember that it was another Nigerian, male and a female. and they were victims of the system. The same system that criminalized them, forced them into lives of criminality, was also very effective in ensuring that they were punished. But someone like Kemi Adeosun sat in the office of the Minister for Finance in this country, doing so with forged NYSC papers, and nothing happened to her. There is another story I told in there of a gentleman I went to law school with. He was convicted of a misdemeanor in his undergraduate years in the UK. The Council of Legal Education refused to call him to the bar. I don't know if they've called him to the bar now. But the same Council of Legal Education, the same Nigerian Judicial Council, he sat watching. Who has asked Justice Flora Azinge to name the senior advocate of Nigeria that was attempting to bribe her? Up until today, nobody. So it's painful, but the reality is that Nigeria is not blessed with a justice delivery system. There is none. The sooner we all wake up to the reality and just admit to our problem, the better for all of us.
So the question, because in all of this, you've established and you've shown some of the practical, you are not talking about things that you plucked from the root. You're talking about your personal experiences in the Nigerian judiciary, in your own practice. But it does look like a hopeless case for anyone seeking justice in the Nigerian judiciary. How do you think anyone can get justice? What are the hopes? How do we get out of this quagmire? And you have said that it is a societal problem, and it's not only typical of the Nigerian judiciary. There are other sectors. What can we do? And I'm hoping that there will be solutions for us to be able to get the kind of judiciary that we wish for.
We can't wish for anything, and we can't pray our way out of our mess. We can't even fast our way out of this mess. We have to be decisive enough in telling ourselves the truth. We have a problem, and that problem is not just our judiciary. Our problems lies in our mirrors. All we need to do is look in the mirror and we'll see our problems staring right back at us. The problem is not just if it was just the judiciary, we'll be talking about, okay, let's reform the judiciary. But when you are done reforming the judiciary, what are you going to do about our legislative arm? What are you going to do about our executive? What are you going to do about our police? What are you going to do about our customs? What are you going to do about we ourselves, our society? Ghanaians will not people any of our sectors. We are the ones who will still people it, and the question is, what have we done with it? So when you are asking me what the solutions might be, it is the same solution I've prescribed for the judiciary that I will prescribe for the police, that I will prescribe for our educational system. We need a drastic and urgent, radical turnaround. We have to admit to the fact that where we are is not desirable at all. Where we are, let's stop lying to ourselves that the excreta that has covered us is merely mud. It's not mud. It's foul excrete. We need to admit to it first. If we are going to walk away from it, we must admit to the undesirability of our situation. So the only thing that will save Nigeria, whether we like hearing it or not, there has to be a revolution of our minds before we can even talk about a revolution of our systems. But the system itself is what has conditioned all this to be happening, because there are no consequences for bad behavior. If there were consequences for bad behavior, this will not continue. But everybody has come to the knowledge of the fact that anything goes in our country. There is sheer impunity everywhere you turn. The apogee of the impunity that has come to define our lives as Nigerians is when you hear them tell you, go to court. That statement is pregnant. It tells us of the failure of the state that we have built. When people who are flagrantly disobeying the laws and trampling all over the rights of individuals will look you in the eye and tell you, go to court. Before it used to be, go to the station, now go report me for station. Now it's no longer report me for station, it's go to court. And the most grueling and gruesome statement of the level of impunity that you are able to deploy, even with the instrumentality of our Supreme Court, are decisions such as the one you saw in Lawan, the like you saw in Akpabio, and the one that was done in the case in question in my book here. So it's not about something. It's not like it happened like I described in my book, and it's happening every day across the length and breadth of Nigeria, from the magistrate court. I think the other day, a lawyer was busy broadcasting from a magistrate court, I think in Lagos, talking about how the magistrate, the clerk was demanding bribe before perfecting a bail. The thing, see, stop listening to me. Go out. There is enough out there to tell you how decadent the system has become. It's not about me. It's about the truth. All I am doing, I think the only thing unique about the book I have written is that somebody is talking about their own experiences, and they are not doing beer parlor talk, and they are putting names and dates and facts and figures. That is the only thing that is different. I have come to paint the details. That thing that the United Nations Office of Drug and Crime are telling you blithely, talking about general. The same thing that Mr. Ebunsofunde, SAN, was talking about when he said judicial reputation is at an all-time low. That Supreme Court judgment have become perfunctory. That is not Dele, that is the venerable Ebunsofunde, SAN. Do you know that man is a doyen of our profession?
Mr. Farotimi,
language.
Mr. Farotimi, can we expect any, if Justice Kekereekun decide to bring out some very major judicial reforms, do you think we can see some kind of changes? And if there is a possibility, what kind of judicial reforms can you see? We've seen a 300% in the rise of pay to judicial officer. Is it a good way to start in reforming the judiciary and ridding it of corruption?
You cannot have a judiciary of saints and angels if you have a country peopled by those who have no respect for the law, for justice, or for equity. It is impossible to have a judiciary that is free of corruption when every other aspect of our society is as debased and corrupt as it is. When there are no consequences for actions, people are going to continue to misbehave. So if we're talking about reforms, the reforms cannot be solely about the judiciary. It's a society-wide thing. But if we are focusing on the judiciary, you have to take a look at the process of appointment. If politicians that we have all universally agreed are largely corrupt and crooked are the ones who are appointing judges, what kind of judges do we expect them to appoint? The judges are bound to be reflective of those who are appointing them. So you need to first of all look at, one, how are you recruiting your legislators? How are you recruiting your executive? Because they are the ones who end up influencing the appointment of judges. How are you doing this? So you cannot retain this decadent system as it is and then be expecting that the judiciary would, by some magic, be different from the rest of the system that has produced it. So talking about the judiciary, yes, we can talk about it sectorally, but it does not change the fact that it is merely a reflection of the society in which it operates. It is part and parcel of our society.
Let me quickly, let's wrap up this conversation. But your position, politically, of course, I saw what happened with Kenneth Okonkwo, who said he no longer speaks for Peter Obi because he doesn't think that he has the grit and the firmness to be able to handle issues. Are you still with Peter Obi? Do you hold similar notion, or what do you make of that kind of situation where he thinks what is going on in the Labour Party needed a firm and a very, very strong handling, but he didn't see that that Peter Obi was able to handle that situation the manner in which he did. Are you also disappointed with what is happening in the Labour Party?
Let me say this. What is happening in the Labour Party is, for me, the noise next door. I'm not a member of the Labour Party, and I have labored to make this clear before the election, during the election, and after the election. I have not concerned myself with what is happening in the Labour Party. Kenneth joined the Labour Party, so it was his business what was happening there. It's none of my business, and I have not made it my business. I'm not a politician. I am a citizen of a country that is not yet born, a victim of Nigeria looking to have a better country in the future. Peter Obi is a man that I admire a lot. I don't expect him to dictate what should happen in the Labour Party. When did he join them? The Labour Party is a party. It's not, I believe that if it's a party, to an extent, they would have to find a democratic means of resolving their differences. Peter Obi is not in a position to dictate the terms of their settlement to them, and I don't expect him to. Obviously, Kenneth Okonkwo has a different understanding of what Peter Obi's response should have been. He is a politician, just like Peter Obi is a politician. They are the ones who decide what political tactics works for them as politicians. Me, I'm not a politician. As of today, if there were to be a presidential election, Peter Obi is the person I'll still queue behind, because I believe in his capacity to take Nigeria in a non-violent manner to the revolution that I desire. I wish to see Nigeria turn around, and I don't want to see that happening violently. And I believe that Peter Obi has the mass appeal and the capacity to unite this country behind a vision for a better future. That is the basis. As at today, I don't know what he might do tomorrow that might change my mind. I'm a free agent. It might be that tomorrow he decides to align himself with persons that I do not believe I can work with, people that I believe cannot bring anything good to Nigeria. And on account of that, I might decide, okay, hasta la vista, we can't work together. But as at today, barring any dramatic happenstance, I remain solidly behind Peter Obi, and I will continue to support him into 2027 if he's going to run, and if we have managed to reform our electoral system. Because any election without a reformation of our electoral system, I'm not interested.
I mean, Kenneth Okonkwo went as far as saying, for 2027, Peter Obi, Bola Tinubu, Atiku should move aside.
Like,
or use, or you are of the opinion that 2027, you are of the opinion that 2027, Peter Obi should realign or go back to the ring and see through his hat and run again for president. That's your opinion, and that's your stand, isn't it?
Let me put it this way. Peter Obi did not lose the last election. Peter Obi won the last election. INEC and the judiciary performed their magic. 2027, there will be no election without a reformation of our electoral system. If the electoral system is not reformed to ensure that beavers and electronic transmission from the polling unit becomes compulsory, I would not even bother to participate in that election, because you can be sure that Tinubu was not in power, that ran and snatched and grabbed it, already has the 2027 election result written. A Tinubu that will be busy appointing weakest man as electoral commissioner, the most violent election rigger in Nigeria today, openly, is Wike. That is the person whose proxy was being appointed as
that's a weighty allegation.
Electoral commissioner.
That's a weighty allegation. I said
it because he's on video. Now what I beg you, stop being politically correct. There are multiple videos and audios of Wike enforcing his political will in Rivers State over and above the sovereign will of the people of that state. Violently too. So this is not, please, I don't do beer parlor talk.
No, because
and why you need to balance things. You can, are you suggesting, okay, so let's turn it into an argument. I am saying here, my name remains Dele Farotimi, and I am saying that there are more than enough material online showing Wike violently suppressing the right of the people of Rivers State to elect their chosen representatives. And I am saying that his personal aide, his person, has already been appointed a resident electoral commission since Tinubu came to power. So how can you be talking about a free and fair election in 2027 when it's already a fait accompli that without consequential amendment of the Electoral Act, without a consequential reformation of our judicial system, the same madness that took place in 2023 will repeat itself in 2027? If we do not tell ourselves these basic truths ahead of time, how can we even hope that anything will change? We have to be unapologetic and unrepentant in pushing the truth in their eyes. As I've told you, the truth is both a sword and a shield. I love wielding it as a sword and smashing them on the head with it, and I don't care for their feelings. I don't know how long any one of us is going to live. I'm not going to live my life kowtowing to the opinion, sentiments, or emotions of worthless human beings who have wrecked the life of thousands and millions by their actions and inactions. So we cannot be talking about an election in 2027 in the presence of the multiple madnesses that have remained with us, in the presence of a situation where a corrupt INEC chairman will open his mouth and blithely declare on national TV, go to court. We can't be having that and be talking about an election in 2027. We must at least be honest enough to tell ourselves what is in front of us. If there is going to be an election worthy of his name, I will be out there supporting Peter Obi. If there will be an election, and if we still even have a country, the way Bulaba is going with Nigeria, what do we know that will be left of this country by 2027? What will be left of this country? An emir is being killed in his own domain after ransom war. And we are talking about 2027. An Oba was killed. 2 Obas, for instance, were killed in Ekiti for the other time. And we are still talking about 2027. You practically don't have a functional state again. Somebody is single-handedly, without recourse to any due process, the due process law be damned, the PPP law be damned, single-handedly without public tender of any sort, they are awarding a road at 4 billion naira per kilometer. And you are still talking about a country. Why are we lying to ourselves? We must, even if they will not agree, we must be unapologetic in telling these truths. Whether we would have a country in 2027 is up in the air. Hunger has become a real issue.
So, I mean, the government of the day will say, Mr. Farotimi, that they are making...
Which government? The government that cannot even ensure that we have fuel. Which government? Do you have government? You have exploiters, buccaneers, thieves.
But, I mean,
which government?
The government of the day will say they are making efforts in fixing the problem that they met on the ground. It's still early in the day.
Okay,
they just have about a year.
I'm Chinese too. I'm Chinese and I'm 6'7". Do you believe me? The government of the day has said they are making effort. We see the effort now. They are making effort. They are buying private jet. They are buying yachts. They are spending 21 billion to renovate. They are spending 90-something billion on Hajj. Is that the? And then they are falsely and fraudulently implementing Orosanye report. They are busy privatizing NNPC. We are busy refining in Malta and everywhere. We see the effort they are making. So I'm Chinese too, Sheung, and I'm 6'7". Do you believe me?
So you don't see any good that this government has done since the last 1 year? No, I'm asking. Because I'm a journalist. I'm asking.
I had no expectation of anything good from this government. Nobody steals power to benefit the people. It does not happen. I do not expect the mercies of a thief who has robbed me. I was not under any illusion whatsoever about this government.
But when you say that the election was stolen, there are those who argue that the elections were fought. The candidate you're talking about came a distant third. The case went to court, and the first court of first instance went to the Supreme Court, and the court validated the outcome of the election as pronounced by INEC, and that the lawyers were unable to prove that the elections were rigged or fraught with irregularities. How then will you be able to say that the mandate was stolen?
Sure. Let me say something, right? You know, the ICPC was set up by Obasanjo. ICPC said that as of 2018 to 2020, 9.45 billion was paid as bribes to lawyers by lawyers to judges. I didn't say that. Justice Kayode just said judges are becoming billionaires because they are sitting on electoral tribunals. Dele Farotimi didn't say that. If you believe for 1 second that the Nigerian judiciary did justice in the 2023 election cycle, I have dollars to sell to you. Just bring money, let's go and buy chemical. What I will say to you is this, Sheung. Yorubas have a proverb. They say that two people cannot be equally fooled by a lie. If the person telling the lie is unaware that he is lying, the person being told the lie should know that a lie is being told. At least the person against whom the lie is being told should also be aware that a lie has been told against him. I say it without any equivocation. The Nigerian judiciary, by its multiple somersaults, in the last electoral cycle established beyond any argument the fact of his complicity in the rape of democracy in 2023. People can hold their opinions, and that's the beauty of opinion. Everybody is entitled to one. Even me. You may or may not agree, but I am still entitled to that opinion, and that is my opinion.
Let's wrap up. Where do we go from here to have the kind of country or a nation that will be for the betterment and for the good of all Nigerians? Where do we go from here?
We as a people and as a collective would have to resolve to be better than we have been. We would all have to, as a collective, admit to our part, our fault in what has happened to us as a people. This is not something that is it's not a sectoral guilt. It's a systemic problem. From the pulpits in the churches and mosques, which stinks to the highest heavens, to the groves, the sacred groves of our land. All the places of religiosity in our country have become temples of iniquity. We need to look at ourselves. Me as a person, you as a person, we as a collective, we need to look at ourselves. It's very easy to point fingers at sectors, but the reality is that there is no part of our country that is free of putrefaction. It's a systemic collapse. If there is anything that would change, if anything would ever change, it would have to be that we as a collective with good leadership decide to try a different pathway. Outside of that, what will happen is that by the time Kekere Ekun is leaving, you will be asking me or someone else again if the new acting CJ would be able to change the system. No single person can change Nigeria. It will take the collective resolving that they are tired of where they are before anything would ever change in our country. It has taken the collective to normalize the madness that we have become acculturated to. And it will take a critical mass, if not a majority, if that madness is going to ever change. That's what I've seen about this.
Mr. Dele Farotimi, retired lawyer, a farmer, and a Nigerian. Thank you so much indeed for your time on today's edition of the Micron podcast. I appreciate it.